Now it's time for Fantasy Fanatics.
All right.
Welcome into Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stubbridge.
I'm Andrew Freeman. My mic is hot. Whoa.
Turn it down a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, it's pretty low, but hey, whatever.
I don't know.
Obviously, last week was our graduation, so this is our post-graduation show that we're keeping on going with.
Dedication. That's what I'm talking about.
And, of course, the Bears have a huge preseason game today, and that'll be against the Seattle Seahawks, and this is in Seattle, so it's going to be really tough. It's going to be a big game. It's at, 9 o'clock on NFL Network, and, yeah, it's going to be a big game.
Is it the last preseason game?
No, but it's the third
more?
preseason game, and in the third preseason game, you play your starters usually for all of the first half. So Jay Cutler and the first team offense will be out there for the whole first half, same with the first team defense. And, yeah, I think they still have to cut some players. I'm not sure what the number is now, but you have to cut the roster to like 50 or something.
Yes, there's big talks about is Michael Sam going to make it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we can probably find an article about that and talk about it too. But, just taking a look here, at the preview for this game, you're going to have Jay Cutler, of course, against Russell Wilson. And if you're looking at the comparisons, and I think that this is last year's numbers, Russell Wilson threw for 3,357 yards, which is pretty good. Jay Cutler only threw for 2,621, although he was injured.
6 weeks, something like that.
6 weeks. I think it was like 5 games. But he had 19 touchdowns, and Russell Wilson had 26. So there's a big, there's a difference there, of course. And, of course, if you're looking at the rushing, you got Matt Forte, who had 9 touchdowns. Marshawn Lynch led the Seahawks with 12 touchdowns in the rushing category, which I think led the NFL. I think it was tied for the lead in the NFL with Jamal Charles, I think. And then also in your rushing yards, Russell Wilson had a lot of yards too, as far as how much he ran, and Jay Cutler not so much. But Matt Forte was another bright spot for the Bears last season. He had he had almost 2,000 yards. He had 1,339, so he's close to 1,500. He averaged 4.6 yards a play. He had 9 touchdowns. And then Michael Bush, the Bears' second string, had 3 touchdowns, but that's not necessarily important. But Matt Forte pretty much carried their running game last year.
Offense. Oh, running game, yeah.
Well, yeah. And then Marshawn Lynch obviously carried the Seahawks all the way to a Super Bowl championship. But, this is going to be a tough situation because the crowd in Seattle is very loud, and they like to get into it, and they know when to be loud to, ruin the Bears' offense, so they can't hear anything. And that happens a lot, so I'm not quite sure. Did you have any thoughts about this game, Andrew, about how you think it's going to go down tonight?
I'm hoping that the Bears don't get stomped.
Yeah, well, of course.
That's what I'm hoping. Seattle's a monster of a team, so I'm hoping to have it close, and I'll be happy with that result.
Yeah, obviously it doesn't really matter if they win or lose, but I'd like to see a good game out of them. But the one thing that we have to look at is the Bears' defense, because the Bears' defense, they still have issues, and they really need, and hopefully they can put together a good half, because I think they're going to be playing all the first half.
Yeah, the first half I'd see how are they doing against the slot receivers, because you know who's healthy, you know who's back in the game. Mm-hmm. The number 1 slot receiver, Percy Harvin. Hello, best slot receiver in the league, I think.
Yeah, so Percy Harvin, of course, he's going to be back, and of course he wasn't very healthy last year. But
you can argue Welker is the best slot, but I think he's over the hill. Yeah. I think he's not at his prime anymore.
The guy who actually led receiving for the Seahawks last year was Golden Tate, and Golden Tate led them with 898 yards of receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. He averaged 14 yards a catch, so that's really good.
I think their entire offensive plan is going to be different this season, though, because you have Percy Harvin.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot more options now,
There's
too.
a lot more options.
Which makes them more scary of a team.
And you could put Christine in the back with Marshawn, too, and just totally mess up the line and their coverage.
Yeah.
Because Christine's also a monster back.
Yeah, he is. And let's see, who else led them? And then under Golden Tate was Doug Baldwin. Of course, he had a pretty good year. He had 778 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns, so the same as Golden Tate. And then Zach Miller had 5 touchdowns as well. For the Bears, Alshon Jeffrey led them with about 200 more yards than Brandon Marshall. He had 1,421 with 7 touchdowns. Brandon Marshall had 1,295 yards with 12 touchdowns. So he was doing pretty good again in the touchdown category.
I would even dare to look at Alshon Jeffrey isn't going to be as good as last year. It's not that he's not good, but I think Cutler's mainly going to be looking at Marshall.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, because last year we saw, when Josh McCown came in, that's when Alshon Jeffrey really started to do good.
Huge.
He had 2 touchdowns against Minnesota, I think in Minnesota, and he had, he just had a lot of good things going for him. And then, of course, Jay Cutler's favorite target is Brandon Marshall. But I think a thing that they probably worked on this offseason was trying to get Alshon Jeffrey more involved with Jay Cutler, because now Jay Cutler, if he's not going to get injured, he's going to play all 16 games. So, there's going to be a good chance that Alshon Jeffrey gets a lot more yards, and hopefully he can break into his own. I'm not sure who has him on our fantasy team, but whoever does, that's obviously a really good receiving option.
Yeah.
And same with Brandon Marshall. And then all the guys on Seattle are really good too. Seattle could definitely repeat, and you never say that in football usually, but they really could repeat, and they'd be the first team since the Patriots.
Yeah, they have the same defensive team, which is really what you're looking for with a Super Bowl, is you want that defensive edge, and they have a young, very powerful defense.
Yeah, they do, and that's going to be really interesting to see if they can repeat, because, of course, me and Andrew both think that the Broncos aren't going to go back to the Super Bowl.
No.
Playoffs, sure,
they're in a
probably,
weak division, but I don't see it. I don't think Peyton Manning's going to have the year he had last year, especially with defenses. They're going to be studying the Super Bowl tape. Like, what did they do? They might not be as effective as Seattle when pulling off that defense, but I don't think you're going to. Peyton Manning will have his 40-point games, but not as many as last year. Not as quite as many touchdowns.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I know I saw on your Facebook you were. It wasn't an argument that you were getting into, but you posted something about how Peyton Manning's probably not going to win MVP or whatever, and he's not. And then somebody said that he's still in the running for MVP. I don't know how he can be in the running for MVP I think Kansas City could win the division.
Kansas City, yes, but they don't have any wide receivers. They got rid of McCluster, which is a weapon they didn't utilize at all. They're just using Jamal Charles' legs, and they don't have any. Bo didn't come significant until like the end of the season last year.
They do have a good defense, though. I think their defense is better than Denver's, so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there.
It's hard to say. Denver has a pretty good defense.
Yeah, I think they do. But
I feel like Kansas City is Denver light.
Yeah,
they don't do the long passes because Alex Smith can't throw long to save his life.
Right.
Just like Peyton Manning, all short passes. The defense, both defenses are really impressive. I see Kansas City as a Denver light, sort of light version of Denver.
Yeah, and
it works.
Yeah, there's also not a whole lot of games tonight, but there's a lot of games on Saturday.
Yeah.
Some other games tonight: Jacksonville and Detroit. That's sort of an game. The Carolina and New England. That's going to be a good game. That's on tonight at 6:30. So that'll be a good game too.
Just a quick update. The Chicago game started earlier today. They're actually in the bottom of the third.
It started. It was a 120 game today.
2 outs in the bottom of the third. They have a guy in scoring position. And Baez is up. Yo.
Me and Andrew during this break will pick who we think's going to win this game.
Yeah.
Since there is still no score, I guess we can still do that.
Yeah, it's still 0-0. It's Gossman versus Arrieta. I'm going to pick Arrieta.
Yeah, so we'll do that after our first break. So nobody thinks we're cheating. Tomorrow, some good games. You got Washington and Baltimore. That'll be interesting. St. Louis and Cleveland. We'll see how Manziel does against St. Louis, who has a really good defense.
An amazing running back, too.
Right. So we'll see how Manziel can do during that, because and we'll read on to this a little later, but
talking about him flicking off the
yeah. I mean, we'll talk about that. It's really not that big of a deal, but it's just something you don't want to see when with
on
your
national TV he flicked off the opposing bench. It's not a big deal. It's no big deal.
I'm like, it doesn't have to do anything with his performance, but that's not what you want to see, and I think that's part of the reason why he's not going to be starting this year.
Sportsmanship, like conduct, I think he's probably going to get fined.
Yeah, I think he did get fined. We'll find out the number. I think he got fined $12,000, something like that, but we'll make sure of that. New Orleans and Indiana play tomorrow at 7 o'clock. That's going to be a good game, too.
Be fun to watch. Andrew Luck versus Breeze.
Right.
It's going to be crazy.
And
neither of them have good defenses.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
It should be a high-scoring.
Oh, yeah, it'll definitely be high-scoring, and we'll see what Jimmy Graham can do against the Colts defense, which he'll probably be able to score multiple touchdowns.
The Titan, the basketball player, Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good matchup because you have two really good quarterbacks, Drew Brees and Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck's really, starting to become an elite quarterback, and then you have Drew Brees, who's always been consistent pretty much ever since he came into the league with San Diego. But and then another good game, Cincinnati and Arizona. This is sort of a good game because it's sort of two teams that tried to make it to the playoffs. I think Cincinnati did make it to the playoffs, but they got upset by San Diego. But Arizona, was like 9-7, and they missed the playoffs.
Was it really an upset though? Because San Diego was what?
Well, I think Cincinnati had more wins.
Their record was really good. I think no way. San Diego had more wins. It was like 13-5 or something like crazy like that.
No, San Diego didn't have that good of a record. That's another thing we'll check up on too. So yeah, we got a lot of things to check up on as well. Let's see, San Diego and San Francisco play. That'll be Sunday at 3 o'clock, so that'll be okay too. Yeah, but I mean, other than that, this Bears and Seahawks game is definitely going to be pretty good game to definitely watch for, so I'm going to be looking forward to that tonight. And yeah, we'll be back on Fantasy Fanatics, SportsTownChicago.com. We'll check up on a couple things and let you guys know, and then we'll pick that Cubs and Orioles game. We'll pick who we think is going to win that game during this break. So stick around to Fantasy Fanatics, SportsTownChicago.com. Okay, welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuppridge.
I'm Andrew Freeman, and I'm so pumped about football I can't even control myself.
I know, we got, about 2 more weeks to go. It's going to be exciting.
It's like 10 days, yeah. I was so off on San Diego, I should just slap myself.
I told you, I thought you were off on their record, but yeah.
9-7.
9-7. Well, hey.
I just remember the hype over Rivers and him having the best season ever in his life.
If I remember,
and his team goes 9-7. It's just like
right. And if I remember correctly, I think they started off the season pretty bad, and then they won a lot of games in a row to push themselves into the playoffs. Yeah. And yeah, a lot of that had to do with Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, even though he throws like a girl. But anyways,
yeah, that's okay.
Also, to reiterate on Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, Johnny Manziel was fined $12,000 by the NFL for flipping the bird, as they say. And
we believe, well, at least I believe, that was the reason Hoyer got the starting job.
Well, I'm starting to think that too because it was announced on Wednesday morning that Brian Hoyer was going to be the starter. So, and that Browns and Redskins game was on Monday. It was a Monday Night Football game. So.
I believe Manziel, like Tebow, his 15 minutes of fame are about up.
Yeah,
he's about done.
I mean, I get why they named Brian Hoyer the starter, and I think that this probably was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if Brian Hoyer is going to do anything. I mean, the Browns pretty much have nothing to lose by putting Johnny Manziel in there. It's sort of like how the Vikings have nothing to lose by starting Teddy Bridgewater, yet they won't start Teddy Bridgewater.
A lot if Manziel keeps on flicking people off and going partying and everything. It's more
I think he did it because it was preseason. I don't think you'd ever see him do that in a regular season game.
Well, let's hope not.
Right.
But they're going to have a lot of PR issues if Manziel does that in the regular season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
I mean,
as Goodell has said, that it's okay to smoke. No, it's not okay to smoke, but it is okay to beat your wife. Something like that. Something
it's
along those lines.
It's completely okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing
of course.
wrong with that.
And then Manziel last night, or on Monday night when he played the Redskins, he was only 7 for 16 for 65 yards and 1 touchdown in the Browns' 24-23 loss. So he didn't do that good.
And he didn't throw that touchdown till after he flicked him off.
It was definitely after.
Yeah. So maybe he just needed that to get his blood flowing.
Of course,
get the jitters out.
This $12,000 fine isn't really going to be any financial issue for Manziel, who got a $4 million, almost $5 million signing bonus on the 4-year rookie contract he signed in June. So
I wonder if they regret that at all. I don't know.
I would think so.
We should get a Cleveland blogger on the phone.
Yeah, let's just contact a Cleveland blogger.
How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I'm not sure how they feel about him in Cleveland. Do they like Manziel? Do they not like him? I'm always wondering because the Browns haven't won a championship since I think 1964 or something, and it's been like 50 years since the town of Cleveland has had a championship of any kind. So
right,
I mean, they're desperate.
I'm pretty sure if Manziel doesn't start the season, they'll put up. Well, no one could afford in Cleveland to put up a big mural poster thing. You know those big billboards?
Yeah.
No one could afford that in Cleveland, but I'm sure they would graffiti on one to tell you to put Manziel in.
Yeah, I would think so. But, so with the news of him flipping off the Redskins bench, Manziel lost his Browns starting QB slot because I think it was originally announced that he was probably going to be the starter. A lot of people were thinking that.
Well, he was outperforming Hoyer.
Yes, he was. And then they both had pretty bad games Monday against Washington, which was kind of surprising because Washington had an awful season. I think they had 3 or 4 wins last year, and they looked pretty good. I mean, it is against the Browns.
Though. That was a pretty big surprise that Washington wasn't doing well.
And, of course, one of their 3 wins came against the Bears, which was just awful.
Sad.
But yeah, so the Browns announced on Wednesday morning that the veteran Brian Hoyer will be the team's starting quarterback for the season opener September 7th against Pittsburgh.
He's not even a veteran, is he? It's like his second season, something like that.
The thing I'm looking at says he's a veteran. I
mean,
say he's
compared to Manziel, he's a veteran.
Sure, yeah.
The veteran of Manziel, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, has Hoyer ever really been, that good? Has he really been a guy that you want starting? I mean, he looks like a good backup.
Before he got injured, he was doing okay, but I wouldn't call him a starter.
Right. And so I just think, I don't know what the Browns are going to do. I mean, their defense is okay. Their offense, I mean, they have a couple good offensive players.
The Browns' defense practically is their offense.
Right, and that's
I mean,
the issue.
Hayden got a monster contract.
Yeah, he did.
I'd like to see the Browns do well, but this is football. There's 31 other teams other than the Browns, and they're all hungry too.
Yeah, they are, and I just...
That's why football's so great.
It is. It can get really interesting, but it's also a little confusing because, I mean, Manziel and Hoyer, those are not 2 good options that you want for your quarterback, but...
Have you seen what happened waiver pickup-wise in our baseball league?
No, I haven't.
We'll talk about that next hour.
Yeah, we can talk about that for sure.
It's very interesting.
I know in our fantasy football league there hasn't really been any moves.
No moves, but, we don't know who's hot or who's not or what's going on with that. There's always some, prime waiver wire pickups, after the first week. You're like, wow, this guy's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, taking a look at that game on Monday that pretty much solidified that Hoyer was going to be the starter. The Redskins won 24-23, but and let's see, Hoyer he didn't play much in that game. He was only 2 for 6 and only threw for 16 yards, yet he's the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Doesn't have his timing down or something, I don't know.
The other guy that did good was I guess this is their 3rd string quarterback, Shaw. I'm not sure what his first name is even. Shaw, he was 8 for 9 threw for 123 yards and scored a touchdown. So
I've never even heard of this Shaw guy.
I haven't either.
Let me look up Shaw Cleveland. Real
C.
quick.
Shaw,
You
and
keep on talking.
I can't click on his name, so I don't know what his first name is.
I got this.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And for their rushing, Tate did pretty well. He had 10 attempts for 51 yards. He had a long run of 19 yards, so that's promising. But, I mean, other than that, they didn't have a good running game. Their receiving game was pretty good. They had a couple guys who had double-digit yardage, 1 touchdown scored, of course. And in the running game, there was no touchdown scored. So it was all touchdowns. They had 2 passing touchdowns. Manziel with that one at the very end, I think.
There's a story about the Browns wanting Connor Shaw is his name.
Shaw, okay.
They want him to start.
Hey, it wouldn't surprise me. He went 8 for 9. So
A whooping 70.25% of the votes in Cleveland, plain dealer fan poll, say that Connor Shaw should be starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns.
That's because they don't want to deal with all that
That's
stuff.
over Hoyer and Manziel. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's definitely something. I can't believe that they actually would want that, but it kind of makes sense after seeing him play pretty well. I don't know. We'll have to see what they do in this third preseason game that the Browns have. We'll definitely have to see how Shaw does, because maybe the Browns will change their mind and they'll put Shaw in the starting role. For the Redskins, Robert Griffin III played pretty well. He was 6 for 8, 112 yards. He did throw an interception, though. Actually, each quarterback that the Redskins had threw an interception. Kirk Cousins had an interception. Colt McCoy had an interception, but also a touchdown, and Kirk Cousins had a touchdown. He was pretty good. He was 12 for 21, threw for 145 yards. So that's...
Speaking of Redskins, do you know what Redskin is in Cleveland right now?
What?
Rex Grossman.
That's right.
Fighting for a quarterback position. Wow.
That's right. I never thought he'd be back.
But. Yeah, go on. Go on. I didn't think so. Butterfingers McGee, Mr. Rex Grossman there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey, he's probably good enough to be on the roster, I would think, just in case something drastic happens where,
would
like,
you
all
rather
3 or 4 get
have
hurt.
Shaw or Grossman?
Right now, Shaw, because he had pretty good numbers.
Would you rather have Hoyer or Grossman?
Well, I'd rather have Hoyer. I mean, I know
Would you rather
Rex
have
Grossman
Mansell or
I just think Rex Grossman's he's way past his prime, obviously.
He's never been good.
Well, he was pretty good the year the Bears went to the Super Bowl.
No, he's never been good. Even the year they went to the Super Bowl,
that was his best year statistically, though.
Statistically, yes, but he's never been a good quarterback.
And
he's probably one of the worst quarterbacks that went to the.
Yeah, no, I agree. He is one of the worst quarterbacks that ever went to the Super Bowl.
That's how I see it.
Luckily he wasn't like Trent Dilfer and he actually won the Super Bowl, being the worst quarterback ever. Well, I mean, it would have been good because it's a Bears Super Bowl.
He wouldn't have gotten rid of Grossman until like last season.
Yeah, I don't think you'd ever get Jay Cutler.
He won a Super Bowl.
Right.
You know who else won one Super Bowl? Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Know who else won one? Favre.
Yep.
1-0, that Mario guy, whatever his name is.
Dan Marino?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Marino.
Yeah, there are a lot of good players that haven't won a Super Bowl.
I blame my dyslexia.
Yeah, hey.
But
whatever.
But he made it, Rex Grossman made it to the Super Bowl, so.
Yeah. Okay, let's do an update, and then we'll come back.
Go Cubbies.
Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuppridge.
I'm Andrew Freeman.
And let's see what we can go over here. Before we get into anything, why don't you? I don't know if there's been any moves in our fantasy football league.
None, no, not since the 9th.
Has there not been any moves, really?
Not since
Nobody's
the 9th
been checking.
of August. Well, wait till we get a little bit closer.
Yeah,
there might be
I'm sure.
some injuries and some moves made here and there, but I'm not expecting anything till after week 1 of play. If you drop someone before week 1, you have no idea what they're capable of.
Right. Oh yeah. I have it up now. Yeah, nobody's made a move since August 8th.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. But let's take a look at our free agent list. For instance, for quarterbacks, Alex Smith is still here.
I wouldn't pick him up.
You don't think so?
Absolutely not.
He did have pretty good numbers last year.
If you have Manziel on your roster, I would pick him up. I would just drop Manziel because I don't know why you would draft him to begin with because you don't even know if he's going to start or not. That's taking a big chance. I mean, if you have Alex Smith or even not Roethlisberger, there's a huge story about him not being as agile as he used to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, and of course, that's sort of obvious, right? I mean, it sort of happens with age.
He's built like a linebacker. He should have never been a quarterback to begin with.
Right, but I mean, hey, he was pretty good. He definitely learned how to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
When he was younger and a little bit slimmer and rapey, yeah.
When he was rapey.
Less rapey.
Right. Yeah. But there are some good not necessarily good, but some good options for your backup situation. I think Alex Smith could probably be a good backup on a
he would be,
team,
yeah.
right?
I'd say he's going to have those games, but
he did do pretty good last year.
Who would I rather have on the backup? I mean, Josh McCown's not a bad choice. Mm-hmm. I'd take a chance with McCown.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody. I mean, if you're looking at McCown's numbers, he scored. Let's see, week 12, 13, and 14. He did really, really good. He had 26 points week 12 at St. Louis, 30 points week 13 at Minnesota, and then against Dallas, which was that really good Monday night game where it was really cold at Soldier Field, he had 4 touchdowns, threw for 348 yards, 46 fantasy points. Wow.
We haven't heard about Bridgewater. Just out of nowhere, I'm thinking, where's Bridgewater? What's the news on him? But anyways, let that float away.
I can tell you a little bit. I know he's not going to be the starter.
That's too bad.
Which I think, because, I mean, Minnesota's probably going to finish last in the NFC North no matter what they try to do.
Yeah.
You know? So,
and that's why I didn't want to pick up Peterson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, I mean, do you really want somebody on a losing team like that?
A big load to put on a back's shoulders. You don't have a quarterback, and you really, I mean, besides Cordell Patterson, you don't really have any wide receivers.
Yeah, that's just a team that's like in a rut, and I don't know if they'll ever get out of it.
Ryan Tannehill or Alex Smith, who would you choose?
That's a tough one, but I'd probably still go with Alex Smith.
I would, I agree with you.
Joe Flacco is available. I mean, is that a good backup option?
He really didn't. He did good the first few weeks last season, but I felt like he had some bad games. A lot of bad games, actually. Yeah, let me see here.
He did have some bad games.
One game he threw 5 interceptions, and that was against Buffalo last season. That was week 4 last season.
5 interceptions, 2 touchdowns.
He threw a lot of interceptions, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
He had 3 in that finale at Cincinnati, it looks like. So
he threw 22 interceptions and fumbled the ball only twice. So he's good securing the ball, but really sucks when it comes to...
Yeah. Well, I think most quarterbacks now are pretty good at securing the ball, I would think.
Grossman would have like 3 fumbles in a game.
Yeah.
I mean, he had like 4 fumbles in the Super Bowl.
Nowadays, is there like a specific quarterback that is just known for fumbling the ball? I don't really think so. Tony Romo, maybe? Other than that, I don't know.
I don't even see Romo on here. Someone, I bet I have him. I probably have him.
Did you take him?
I probably took him.
Geno Smith is up here. I don't know if he's going to be the starter for the Jets, but he's an option. Eli Manning, of course, will be the starter for the Giants. He's up here as well. He didn't have a very good season at all. Neither did the Giants as a whole.
Yeah.
But, he could... I mean, there's always potential for Eli Manning. I mean, it's a Manning, so... there's always potential for him to have a really good season again. Ryan Fitzpatrick for Houston, he's on here. Then, Josh McCown, as we talked about. And then there's a couple tight end options here. There's Tony Gonzalez.
Didn't he retire?
No, because he's still on the roster. Right. Although maybe he did retire.
If he wants to stay around. Timothy Wright, I think, is a good option for tight end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good option, too.
Let's see, he got 5 touchdowns, a bunch of yards.
Because, like, for instance, my tight ends are Vernon Davis, and I have Kobe Fleener, who I think is with the Colts. Yes, he's with the Colts.
Yeah.
And who are your 2 tight ends? I can look real
My
quick.
tight ends, I got it. Julius Thomas, which is awesome pickup, and Jordan Reed, which...
That's not a bad thing either, because that could be a really valuable target for RG3.
Yeah. I'm hoping he uses him.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, tight ends it's iffy unless your name's Jimmy Graham.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk more about fantasy football. We'll wrap up that discussion, and then we'll get into fantasy baseball, and we'll pick games, tell you who won last week, all that good stuff. Maybe some last-minute pickups for your fantasy team for baseball as we're going down the home stretch. I think there's only about 3 or 4 more weeks left until the playoffs start for us. So
yeah, I think we have 2 weeks left until... regular season's done.
Right, so it's getting down very exciting. So stick around, Fantasy Fanatics, SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stepperidge.
I'm Andrew Freeman, and we're breaking down. We're going to go to running backs and wide receivers.
Yes.
Running back wise, it's looking kind of slim. Donald Brown got picked up by San Diego for $4 million, which is kind of a questionable move. I mean, you already have Danny Woodhead. Mm-hmm. You also have, who else do they have? They have Ryan Matthews and Danny Woodhead.
Yeah.
Why would you need Donald Brown, who really hasn't been that great of a
And
running
Ryan
back?
Matthews is a pretty good option, too.
Oh, yeah.
He had a really good, I think he had sort of a breakout year last year where he was doing really well.
Definitely, and Woodhead is a receiving running back. I mean, they'd throw back both of them in the backfield, and you had no idea if it was a run play or a throw.
It looks like last season he only had 1 game where he scored 2 touchdowns. So everything else was either 1 or 0. So
Yeah.
that's not good. But also another option here is Rashard Mendenhall. It's not an awful option.
You have
depending on who
Andre
you have.
Ellington on there, though, who's going to take... he's going to take a good amount of the handoffs.
Yeah.
And there's no news on Rashad. I don't know who's starting. It's a question mark for me.
Yeah, I'm not so sure either who's there. But
Shane Vereen is a shiny choice. That pops out to me. Mm-hmm. Shane Vereen and a great handcuff. Bobby Rainey would be a good handcuff.
Is he first string or second string for New England, or is he?
They pool it, man. There's always 3 running backs. There's one that gets like 20, and the other guys get 10 touches. But Vereen, before he broke his arm, man, he did 14 attempts for 101 yards.
Right. Yeah.
And then he came back, and he was in that pool.
Yeah. It looks like he came back week 11 at Carolina.
Yeah. Didn't do anything. He got a touchdown in week 14, but he only had 3 for 9 yards.
Yeah.
He must have been catching a lot of passes or something.
Yeah, that's true. James Starks on Green Bay. I mean, this is sort of a last-minute option, but, he's not.
And then you have one of the top utility players in the game, Dexter McCluster for Tennessee. Underutilized in Kansas City. They didn't really use him too much.
True.
And then another guy I'd be looking at is Jaquez Rogers, because Jackson isn't going to be healthy all season. I can guarantee you that much.
Right. Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, it looks like he missed practice Friday with a hip issue, but he still could be available for Sunday's preseason game against the Cardinals.
The law firm isn't going to get... He's not going to get too many touches anymore. I mean, Giovanni has the starting position for that side. Mm-hmm. Fozzie Whitaker, though. Let me tell you about Fozzie Whitaker. I just like his name. That's it.
Yeah, it is a funny... I mean, there's a lot of funny names. I mean, there's LeGarrette Blount, who's a running back option in our league for free agents. Yeah. It's another funny name. And, yeah, there's a... Jaquez Rogers. That's a funny name. Jaquez.
My boy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there's some good options. Well, not that good of options, but there's some people that I'm not sure how everyone looks. I know my running back game is pretty much set. I have, although I do have Matt Forte, which is obviously really good, but then I also have CJ Spiller, which, it's not that good. But I thought it'd be kind of cool because they're both going to be playing each other week 1, so that's kind of exciting. But other than that,
I'm pretty happy with my running back. I got Alfred Morris, Eddie Lacy, Kerry Robinson, and I think I have one more. Yeah, Christine Michael. I got the handcuff of Christine.
Yeah. On my bench, I also have Chris Ivory for the Jets. That's not a bad option either, I don't think.
The Jets have Darrell Richardson, though, and he didn't do too bad last season.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at Ivory's stats from last year.
Yeah.
He had some good yards, especially later in the season. After their bye week in Week 10, he exploded. He had 98 yards. He had 109 Week 16, 76, 66 yards in Weeks 14 and 15. So, yeah.
Now,
he's doing pretty good.
Let's segue into wide receivers.
Yep.
Now, Brian Hartline is never a bad choice if you want someone who's pretty steady in points. He's always going to get you something. But he doesn't break 100 yards. He's out of 32 games, there's 27 games where he didn't break 100. Marvin Jones is going to miss 3 weeks, but he's a good option, I believe. And then here's a question. Harry Douglas, should you handcuff him in case Roddy or Julio Jones gets injured? Should you?
That would be horrible for the Falcons.
That's what happened last year. That's why they did so horrible.
Yeah.
But Harry Douglas had some huge games to pick up the pace for them.
Yeah.
He had 1,067 yards. He only had 2 touchdowns, though, which is frightening.
Right. Especially in a game. He had 121 yards in one game, didn't even score a touchdown.
Yeah.
Wow. See, there's Eddie Royal on San Diego. He's decent, but he's obviously not their main option there. But he's pretty good.
Yeah, Eddie Royal's good.
Sissel Shorts.
What do you want?
Is okay.
Royal or Boykin?
I think I'd probably take Royal over him.
I don't know, because Boykin's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but I mean, I always think about the Packers. I always think, Rodgers to Nelson. That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
So I just don't know how many, and I even think there's a player in between them. I think Jarrett Boykin's pretty much a third option for Green Bay. Speaking of third options, Santonio Holmes, of course, was picked up by the Bears. That
was crazy, man. You guys already have great wide receivers, and now you get Santonio Holmes.
Mm-hmm. And he is a free agent in our league, in case you want to gamble on that. He had 1 touchdown last year, and that was against Buffalo.
He has Tannehill throwing to him.
That's true. He had Tannehill throwing to him. But, hey, now he's got Cutler. So, and it's – I don't know. I think it's an okay option. They definitely are a really big offensive-minded team. The Bears are, of course. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens.
And then there's Tavon Austin, who's available also.
Okay, yeah, that's an okay move too, if you happen to get him.
Against Indy, he only had 2 receptions for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yo. But the first 3 games he played, 6 receptions, but he had low yards.
Mm-hmm.
But he had 2 touchdowns in the second game versus Atlanta.
Going back to the Falcons real quick.
Yeah.
They could have a pretty good team this year, especially if nobody gets injured. If nobody gets injured, then
last year it was bad.
Yeah, and I think they only had two wins. I think they went 2-14,
something like
which
that.
Is really something unusual for the Falcons, a team that just before that was going into the NFC Championship game 2 years in a row. And they are in a pretty tough division. That NFC South, I believe is what that is. That's a tough division with New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Carolina, and Atlanta. All 4 of those teams have the potential to be really good. Tampa Bay, not so much. But if Lovie Smith and Josh McCown can do that, they could definitely upset some teams. It's going to be interesting to see.
I have 2 minutes. Let me talk to you about a person that I think is going to explode.
Yeah.
The Saints got rid of Lance Moore, and they got rid of Sproles.
Yeah, they did get rid of Darren Sproles, which is a big surprise.
Because the guy that had 20 yards per catch, which is the most in the league, was Kenny Stills. So they said goodbye to Lance Moore, goodbye to Sproles, and now they have Kenny Stills taking over this huge spot. I'm expecting good things. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, I mean it would make sense. So
I think he's going to vault up there. I think if you have an injury in your wide receivers and Kenny Stills is an option, I might skip over most of these people, except for Harry Douglas. He's a good handcuff. I would pick up Kenny Stills.
Yeah. Any last thoughts about fantasy football before we transition into baseball?
I am stoked beyond belief that in the next 10 days we're going to be seeing those scores happen, and we're going to be talking about us skull stomping all the people in our league.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a lot more exciting to talk about fantasy football once the players start playing and once we start playing for real. So yeah,
once those numbers start like rolling, and I have some smack talk to actually talk about.
Yeah, it'll make it a lot easier.
I will destroy you.
So we'll be back to talk about some baseball after an update on SportsTownChicago.com Fantasy Fanatics.
Yeah.
Now it's time for Fantasy Fanatics.
Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. Time for baseball talk here. I'm Ryan Stuppridge.
I'm Andrew Freeman.
And
the Cubs aren't last. That's what matters.
That is what matters.
No,
they don't have
baseball.
the worst record.
They're last in their division.
Which
not all of baseball.
Which was expected. I mean, you know, they're going to be in last for a while, I think.
Yeah.
But here's some news on the South Side anyway about the Angels acquiring Gordon Beckham from the White Sox. So Gordon Beckham's finally done. He started in 2009 with the White Sox. Never really had a very good average. I know I could pull up his career numbers in a little bit, but I mean, I don't understand why he was here so long, and I'm surprised that when he was doing pretty good, why the White Sox weren't really willing to trade him. Because I think the Sox probably could have traded him a couple weeks ago, before the trade deadline, and they just never did.
I'm cynical of Beckham, so I'm just like, why don't you just drop him?
Right.
You know, but they got some money out of it, so congratulations.
Yeah.
I mean, you're opening up cap room for someone that's more skilled in that position.
Yeah. Let's see. And, of course, now he goes to the Angels, who are doing really well. They're fighting against Oakland for that top seed in the AL West. So he's eligible for free agency after the 2015 season. So could he come back to the South Side? Probably not.
I hope not.
His fielding, of course, was always really good. He's a very good fielder. And
he's better than Darwin, but not by much.
Yeah, they're both kind of comparable in the sense that they both had really good defense and they both couldn't hit the ball.
Really bad at hitting the ball, like 220 bad.
Yeah. Let's see. Gordon Beckham's career batting average for 6 years, only 244.
Yeah.
That's not good. His best year, surprisingly enough, his best year was the first year he came into the league, 2009. He batted 270, 63 RBIs, and 58 runs, and 14 home runs, which is pretty good too. Yeah, and then his career batting average just started to slide down. He had 252, 230, 234, 267 in 2013, 221. Yeah, not so much. And he only really had 2 full seasons, 2011 and 2012.
Yeah.
And those ended up being pretty bad batting average years.
That's probably why they were his only season.
Right. So, I mean, the Angels get a good guy that they can play, you know, if there's a day game after a night game, you know, you can slide in there. He can come in as a pinch hitter. I think he'd be a good option for that. It's sort of like how Darwin Barney's now with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And he'll be there against the Dodgers. He comes in, you know, for pinch hitting purposes and everything. So, yeah, so that's just some news about Gordon Beckham. I don't think anyone's really sad to see him go, so... You know,
bye!
Yeah, bye.
Here's the door.
Well, the Sox need to start to rebuild, and
yeah,
I think that's good.
I agree with that.
I think that this is maybe the start of that, hopefully. Speaking of some batters in our fantasy league, if you need somebody to help you try to win these last few weeks...
there's some players definitely available.
There is some players.
I want to look at season stance. I'd look at the month.
Yeah.
Go to month stats.
Yeah, I would look monthly probably.
Yeah. Josh Reddick is on top of the whole. He has 182.5 points for the month. 29 and 94, 18 runs, 8 doubles, 1 triple, 5 home runs, and yeah, like I said, good pickup.
Yeah.
Right field, I'm already covered because I have Hunter Pence, so I couldn't pick him up.
Right. Lucas Duda is on the list too.
Duda is in the top of the last 30, the last 15, and I believe even the season. Like Duda's like hovering over the top.
Yeah, he's pretty close.
Especially in the season, Duda's at 654 for points. Let's look at his batting average, 255. But he's had a good month. 23 home runs, impressive.
Right, and there's a couple people that are on waivers, so these people were recently dropped. Brian Dozier from Minnesota, he's all right. I don't know how good he really is.
He has been on a single streak where he's only been getting single-digit points for the past 10 days.
Yeah, so I don't know how good that is.
Charlie Blackmon, I dropped him forever ago. He's actually doing okay. He's still batting 284 with 62 runs, 15 home runs, and 59 RBIs.
I can see why you dropped him, though. I mean, I know you dropped him before this, but since August 8th, I mean, hasn't really done much.
Yeah.
He did good August 17th, but other than that, hasn't been doing too well. And he's out, and he was out of the lineup on Wednesday, which I think was their last game.
I dropped JD Martinez. I didn't need him anymore, so I dropped him. He's batting 301. He's a great pickup.
Yeah, he's a good pickup too. Matt Adams, first baseman for. I mean, first baseman, you don't really need, but he was just dropped, because there's a waiver on him for Saturday, so that'll clear Saturday. D. Gordon was recently dropped. He has a waiver until Sunday, so you put a waiver claim on him. I had Trevor Plouffe for a little bit because David Wright was hurt. Yeah. And Trevor Plouffe, he wasn't doing too bad for me. His batting average is low. He's batting 242, but he was pretty productive. And I had him in that game where he scored 18 fantasy points. He had a 3-run homer in that game, so that was good. Yeah, I mean, other than that, he's still an okay option for third base. He's the best option on here for third base. Either him or Casey McGee, but I'd probably take Trevor Plouffe over Casey McGee.
For monthly, Solarte is on top for third base. He's not batting too good, though. He just must have had a good month. He's 147 for the month, 27 of 99 with 3 home runs in 13 RBIs.
Yeah.
He has as many walks as strikeouts, that's pretty good. That's really good, actually.
Right.
Most people do not have that.
Another guy that's been pretty hot lately has been Nick Markakis for the Baltimore Orioles. Of course, the Orioles are running away with the AL East, and they're doing really well. But Nick Markakis, he plays right field, so if you need an outfielder, right fielder anyway. And I've been thinking about this because I have Curtis Granderson, I think, is my right fielder. No, my right fielder is Jason Worth, so I'm okay there. But Curtis Granderson really has not been doing too well lately, so I'm trying to think of a center fielder to pick up because
why don't you, if you're looking for a right fielder, why don't you pick up Josh Reddick?
No, I'm not looking for a right fielder. I'm looking for a center fielder. I thought originally right fielder, but center fielder. So if you click on the center field options, Charlie Blackmon's there, Denard Span's there. That might be the best option, actually. Scores tons of runs, has a good batting average, lots of stolen bases.
What about John Jay? He's batting 313. He's got solid numbers. He has 3 12s out of 4 games. He's on a hot streak.
Yeah, John Jay's a pretty good option. I was thinking more maybe along the lines of Austin Jackson, too. He has a change of scenery now with Seattle.
But John Jay's batting 313, and Austin Jackson's still batting at 265.
Yeah,
and
actually,
he's
I'm
been
looking at
single digits.
Yeah, actually, I see John Jay's numbers now.
Yeah. Impressive, aren't they? I mean,
they are.
Seems like he's tearing it up this month.
He, especially this last week, he scored 12 points in 3 out of the 4 consecutive days.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
41 runs. I mean, he's behind because Yeah, I think he's behind because he was injured. Let me look at...
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to look at it, but it looks like that seems like a pretty good option.
Yeah.
Actually, which I was not...
Always get the hot hand, that's what I say.
Yeah,
John Jay is looking pretty
John
hot to
Jay
me.
definitely is doing really good.
I picked up... this last week I picked up DeGrom.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, because he's about to come off on DL, of the DL, so I picked him up. Hopefully that works out for me.
Garrett Richards really sucks for him. He's on the 60-day DL. He was doing so good.
He was doing really good this season. I'm so sorry to whoever had him. Did you have him?
I did not have him.
Okay.
I can look to see who did real quick.
And speaking of like trades, have you looked at the league activity?
I've looked at it a little bit.
Okay.
Not lately.
Well, the last 2 days, it looks like Tennessee, Nashville Conquerors has dropped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's dropped 7 players. Nope, make it 8.
Right, and he was also the one that dropped Garrett Richards.
Yeah.
So.
He added Oswaldo Arcia, dropped J.J. Hardy. Is Arcia even a shortstop? No.
Arcia's an outfielder, isn't he?
He's an outfielder.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he already has another shortstop. Dropped Matt Adams. Got Calhoun.
I like Cole Calhoun a lot.
Yeah, he's doing good. 65 runs. Good Lord. Added Matt Shoemaker. Dropped Wei Yin Chin. Then dropped Garrett Richards. Added Adam LaRoche. I like that move. Adam LaRoche is having a hot month, even though he's only batting .269. He has 19 home runs. That's a monster. And then he added Drew Smiley and dropped Oswald Arcia, who he picked up earlier. I guess he's going the pitcher route. Like he's taking
my approach to it.
He added Carrasco. We were talking about Carrasco last week, I believe.
Yeah, we were.
Dropped Shoemaker. Then he dropped D. Gordon, which is fine. Added Johnny Peralta. It's a better shortstop. And then he added Cabrera as Drupal Cabrera and dropped Brian Dozier. So those are a lot of moves for one team. Maybe he's trying to go for a playoff stretch. Maybe he's cutting the...
Well, he's pretty much out of it, though, isn't he?
No. There's so many people that are...
Oh, that
Let me go into
scoreboard.
That's right. I'll tell us the
9
scores.
Yeah, go ahead and tell us the scores right now.
And this week on the scoreboard, Suck My Bears versus Get Down with the Kipnis. Suck My Bears is beating him 205 to 136.5. Ryan's rolling, destroying his own brother, stabbing him in the back repeatedly until he squeals and bleeds out, beating him 233 to 152.5. 162 and more like 0 and 162 is actually doing what he said he was going to do and is beating Nashville Conquerors. He's not going to win the bet, though, because watch out! His arch nemesis is destroying I Like Stanton Girls almost by 100 points, 240.5 to 146. Shinner Squad versus Coco and Company. Shinner Squad has a small lead, small margin, 22-point margin, 128 to 105.
That's a low-scoring game.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like I said, Nashville Conquerors is going to lose this week if he doesn't do some magic, but he's 9-10. But other people that are 9-10 or close to it, Get Down with the Kipnis is about to lose, so he's going to go 10-10. San Jose is going to lose. I think he's safe for playoffs if he can win.
Yeah.
Watch out. It's going to go 9-11, though. So you're going to have to watch out for Watch Out coming up. And then
maybe that's why his name's Watch Out.
Exactly.
Watch Out.
And then Coco and Company
into the playoffs.
Yeah, depending on if Coco and Company comes back and wins it, that's another 9-11 team. There'll be like 3 9-11 teams.
So
maybe
look at
4.
my brother's schedule here. So after me, he's at 162-0, so he'll probably win that. Then he plays Watch Out to end the season, so that could be a very big game that last week, September 1st through the 7th. because he'll probably lose to me, and then he should win his next game, which would be against 162-0. He only has 5 wins, so I'm assuming that's what's going to happen.
Let's take a look. Your score just jumped by a lot, so Arietta must be striking people out.
Yeah, looks like it went up a little bit.
Let's see here. Ryan's rolling. Let's see how you're doing. You have 9 points from Arietta. He has 3 strikeouts with 6 innings played. And the Cubs are up 3-0. So,
3-0.
yeah.
So, here, I'm going to see how they scored that final run.
If he can play a complete game, I got 33 points from McCarthy just the other day. Mm-hmm. And he played a complete game.
Before we go to break, let's tell you how the Cubs scored their runs, as it was 3-0 in the middle of the 6th. Valbuena homered to right center in the 4th. That made it 1-0. Logan Watkins, who was a recent call-up for the Cubs, singled to deep right center. Ryan Sweeney scored. That made it 2-0. And then in the 5th inning, this is the best part, Javier Baez hit a home run to left. Hopefully it was deep enough. I'll try to watch the highlight of it during the break. And, yeah, that made it 3-0. And
you gave me 13 points. Thank you.
Yeah. You beat me to the punch by adding him, so I was impressed.
Hey, man, Tulowitzki got injured, and I was like, oh, hello, Javier.
Need somebody, right? And
he's only batting 240, but I don't care. He hits so many home runs, it almost doesn't matter.
Pretty productive, and, hey, he'll be a good guy to get next year for sure. So, when we come back, we'll go over the pitching matchups from last week. We'll go over the pitching matchups for this week today, and we'll do some other stuff, too. So stick around to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com.
Hey, Javier Baez!
Welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuffridge.
I'm Andrew Freeman.
And now, before we get into some more baseball news, it is time to go over the matchups from last week and see how we did. So,
yes,
hoping for a big week myself. I know I won last week.
Yes, you did.
And this week, I'm sure it'll be close again. So let's see. For Baltimore and Cleveland, which was the first game, that was Wei Yen Chen versus Corey Kluber. We both went with Corey Kluber, and that ended up being a no decision. So that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
So no points. Pittsburgh and Washington, we had Charlie Morton versus Tanner Roark. Andrew went with Charlie Morton, and I went with Tanner Roark, and Tanner Roark got the win. So I'm up currently 1-0. Seattle and Detroit, we both went with Rick Porcello. It was Rick Porcello versus Paxton. And actually, Paxton got the win. We both took the loss there.
Crazy.
Yeah, we didn't pick that one correctly. I don't know.
Not even close.
Arizona and Miami, we had Trevor Cahill versus Hand. I went with Brandon Hand. Andrew went with Cahill.
Yeah, I did.
Cahill did get the win. Arizona won that game 3-2, so good job there.
Right.
Tied 1-1. The Cubs and Mets, Travis Wood versus Zach Wheeler. I went with Zach Wheeler. Andrew went with Travis Wood, which he is having a pretty good month, but Zach Wheeler got the win.
Darn it.
So I'm up 2-1. Houston and Boston, Dallas Keuchel against Clay Buchholz. We both went with Keuchel, and this ended up being a no decision, unfortunately. New York Yankees at Tampa Bay, Brandon McCarthy against Alex Cobb. I went with Alex Cobb. Andrew went with Brandon McCarthy. This one ended up being... Let's see, who won that one? Alex Cobb won this one.
Darn it.
They won 5-0, actually, at Tampa Bay against the Yankees, which is kind of surprising. Okay, I'm up 3-1 currently. Let's see. Oakland and Atlanta. Jason Hamill versus Alex Wood. We both went with Jason Hamill, but Alex Wood got the win. We both took the loss there.
Oh, man.
So still 3-1. Angels in Texas. That was Garrett Richards before he got hurt against Nick Martinez. We both went with Richards. Richards got the win. So we both get a point there. So 4-2 is the score. There's 3 more games left. So Andrew, I don't know. It's not looking too good for you.
Oh, no. No, it's not.
Okay, yeah, that was that game. Let's see. Okay, we've got Cincinnati and Colorado. Cincinnati and Colorado, that would be Cueto versus Otenvino. And we both went with Cueto. Cueto got the win, so that's another point for us. So that the score is now 5-3. 2 more games left. Milwaukee.
Tie it.
Milwaukee and the Dodgers. You got Nelson, who was a call-up for them, against Zach Greinke. We both picked Zach Greinke. And no decision.
I lost.
That ended up being a no decision, so yeah, I think you lost. Philadelphia and San Francisco, that was Cole Hamels versus Madison Bumgarner. And that ended up being a no decision as well as, that went 10 innings. So that was a no decision. So I ended up winning 5-3. So that's 2 wins in a row for me this week.
That sucks.
Yes. So that's that. And now, let's go over the matchups for this week. And let me just move these papers out of the way. Okay. Matchups for this week. We both went with Jake Arrieta today. So far, so good. He's winning 3-0. White Sox and Yankees. We got John Danks versus Sean Green. Sean Green's doing pretty well this year. 3-1 with a 2.91 ERA. So John Danks isn't doing so good this year. So who do you think you're going to go with?
Whoever is not John Danks.
Okay, so you're going to go with Green. I'm also going to go with him. Okay. Houston and Cleveland. We got Peacock versus Carrasco. They're both not doing that well, but Carrasco is doing a little better.
I guess I'll go with that dude.
Carrasco?
Carrasco, yeah.
All right. This one's tough. I'm going to go with Carrasco, though, as well. San Francisco and Washington. We got Tim Hudson versus Doug Fister. Doug Fister is doing really well this year, 12-3 with a 2.20 ERA. And keep in mind, Doug Fister was hurt for like a month and a half, so he's won 12 games. Tim Hudson, 8-9 with a 3.03 ERA, so the ERA is still good, but he does have 9 losses. Who are you going to go with?
Hudson.
You're going to go with Hudson. I got to go with Doug Fister, so that's our first differing opinion there. St. Louis and Philadelphia. Adam Wainwright versus Kyle Kendrick. Adam Wainwright, 15-7, 2.40 ERA. Kyle Kendrick, not very good. 5-11 with a 4.90 ERA. I mean, I pretty much have to go Wainwright.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. Tampa Bay and Toronto. We got Drew Smyly versus Marcus Stroman. Smyly is 7-10 with a 3.66 ERA. Stroman is 7-4 with a 3.83 ERA. So this is a pretty good matchup. Tampa Bay and Toronto. Who you got?
I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay.
You're going to go with Tampa Bay and Smyly. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go Stroman.
Stroman.
Marcus Stroman's been pretty good this year. Atlanta and Cincinnati. Mike Minor versus Matt Latos. This is pretty much a toss-up.
It is. Minor's been a disappointment this season.
Yes, he has. His ERA is over 5.
But so is Verlander. I mean,
that's true, and it's still hard to pick against Verlander.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Latos.
All right, you're going to go with Latos. I'm going to go Mike Minor. No, I'll stick with Latos. I can't make a decision. Seattle and Boston. Felix Hernandez against Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly, of course, was on the Cardinals, got traded, I think at the trade deadline, to Boston. Felix Hernandez has been really good this year. I don't know how you can pick against him.
Yeah, me neither. I'm going to stick with that.
The King Felix. All right.
Felix.
Kansas City and Texas. We got Ventura versus Kobe Lewis. Ventura, I think that's Yordani Ventura. He's done pretty well this year, 9-9, but he has a 3.48 ERA. Lewis has an ERA well over 5, so I'm going to go with Ventura.
Yeah, as well. I will go with Ventura.
All right. We've got, how many more games? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 more games.
Wow.
Detroit and Minnesota. You got some guy named Ray, R. Ray, versus Tommy Malone. Tommy Malone has a 3.99 ERA this year.
I'm just going to go with Malone.
All right, I'm also going to go with Malone. Pittsburgh and Milwaukee. That's going to be a big series in Miller Park. You got John Locke versus Giovanni Gallardo. This one's tough, but I think I'm going to go John Locke.
Gallardo!
All right, Gallardo. Miami and Colorado. Henderson Alvarez versus Francisco Morales.
Hernandez? Was that what you said?
Henderson Alvarez. He's done really well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do Alvarez.
All right, me too. San Diego and Arizona. You got Despange versus Josh Kallmenter. This is another toss-up. I really don't know who to pick. I guess I'll go with the San Diego guy, Despange.
Despange. Yeah, I'll go with Despange.
All right. 2 more games. The Angels in Oakland. You got Hector Santiago, who used to be on the White Sox, against Sonny Gray.
Oh. So I'm going to go with Gray.
You're going to go with Gray. All right. I'm going to go Hector Santiago. I think the A's could possibly pass up Oakland by the end of this series. This is a huge series. Wow. I didn't realize how big this was. They're only separated by 2 games. So
yeah.
By the end of the series, if someone sweeps, they'll be either ahead by 4 or 5 or tied. And then last game, the Mets travel to LA to play the Dodgers. Jonathan Neese versus Dan Herron. I think I'm going to go Dan Herron.
Dan Herron.
All right. Those are the matchups. Now it is time for an update, and then we will talk a little bit about some other stuff too.
Hometown breakdown.
Hometown breakdown, yes. We will get to that as well. But first, an update.
If you were a hot dog and you were starving, would you eat yourself? What? I know I would. First, I'd smother myself with brown mustard and relish. I'd be so delicious. So would you?
I don't know.
Don't jerk me around, Norm. It's a simple question. A baby could answer it. If you were a hot dog and you were starving, would you eat yourself?
I guess so.
Oh, you made a wise choice, my friend.
It's the Hometown Breakdown.
Congo Cubs, Sox, Bears, and Bulls.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. This is our final segment, of course, and it is the Hometown Breakdown. We'll talk about the Cubs, Sox, the Bears. We already talked about a little bit, and then also the Bulls as they are getting set to get ready for the regular season. Starting off with the Cubs, though, there's been some news that Jacob Turner could replace Edwin Jackson in the Cubs rotation.
Edwin Jackson was just a bad pickup to begin with.
I agree.
What were they thinking?
My initial thought, and I still sort of am sticking to this, they should have signed Matt Garza to the same sort of contract that they signed Edwin Jackson to.
Yeah.
Because I think you could have gotten him for about the same amount of money because they overpaid tremendously for Edwin Jackson. But they could have kept Matt Garza. Then you could have had a guy in the rotation. He still could be on the team now, or he could have been a better trade bait opportunity trade during the trade deadline. So that would be really interesting to see what would have happened there. But yeah, Jacob Turner, he pitched because of course they had that rain shortened game Tuesday. The Giants protested and they won their protest, so they continued the game yesterday at like 6 p.m. And it ended up being the second longest rain delay in Major League history. But they had Jacob Turner start that game. He started to pitch in the 6th inning, and he pitched okay. He gave up a run, but he pitched pretty well, pitched a couple good innings. So there is some talk that Jacob Turner could replace Edwin Jackson in the Cubs rotation, which I wouldn't mind one bit. Because,
no, not really.
Because, Edwin Jackson might be pretty good out of the bullpen anyway.
We've had relief pitcher issues forever. Maybe that's where he needs to be.
Yeah, just have him in there as long relief because he's got to be better than Charlie Villanueva,
because there's a lot of people that have gone from starting pitcher roles to be very successful as relief pitchers.
Yeah,
you're very successful at maybe doing 1 or 2 innings of work. Why not be a relief pitcher? You could be helping the Cubs out. We could win so many more games if we had a good relief pitcher.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I did not know this, but Edwin Jackson was born in West Germany. It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
The more you know.
Right. He's born in West Germany. He has 11 years of Major League experience. And I was looking at his career sort of numbers. He's started 261 games. He has 5 complete games. He does have that one no-hitter that he had with the Arizona Diamondbacks, although he pitched like 141 pitches that game, which is kind of ridiculous. He has 3 shutouts, and so he's really, he's never been that good. His career ERA is 4.61. This year it's 6.09. He has an earned run average over 6, yet he's still in the rotation. I know the Cubs aren't really trying to win and they're not necessarily caring about that. But you shouldn't have a guy in the rotation that's giving up 6 runs every time he goes out there.
That's ridiculous.
Right. Because that's pretty much a loss every game. And he's 6-14 this year. And now the wins don't necessarily matter, but a 6.09 ERA. He shouldn't even have 6 wins. And his career ERA has gone up to 4.61, so that's not good either. And he has a no-hitter.
Just one?
He has one no-hitter, yeah.
Okay,
he threw in 2009.
You know who else does? Dallas Braden.
Yeah, we haven't seen him at all.
Oh, who's that?
I actually saw him.
Braden.
I actually saw him on, I think it was MLB Network. He was an analyst on MLB Network, which is kind of surprising. I'm like, well, what could you analyze? You had one good game your whole career.
I don't know, the pitching. he was behind the scenes in the pitching, knows what it takes to go from wherever he went to Major League pitching.
Yeah.
So no, he wasn't there for a long time, maybe 2 seasons, 3 seasons.
Right.
But he got seriously injured and couldn't play anymore. So.
Yeah, so it looks like Jacob Turner is going to replace Edwin Jackson in the rotation. We'll have to see how that plays out.
Thank goodness. Maybe we'll actually pass the White Sox.
Yeah, I know we're catching up.
We're a game behind, maybe 2.
We're a game or 2 behind.
Let me look. I have
the
the
records.
Standings right here.
Yeah, go ahead and take a look at that.
They're kind of surprising, actually, because some of the teams that were at the top are now at the bottom. Like Texas finally caught up to them that, hey, your team's injured. They're 49-77.
Yeah, they're having an awful year, and it kind of sucks because they usually have a pretty good fan base, and I still see in highlights and stuff, there's still a lot of fans out there. I don't think they're understanding quite what's.
Texas loves baseball.
Yeah.
Chicago White Sox has 59 wins. We have 55.
Yeah, but I would not be surprised by the end of this year that we have more wins than the White Sox do.
I cannot believe that Colorado is one of the worst teams in baseball, but they have one of the highest batting averages.
Yeah, they do.
As a team.
They have a great offense, and it's just they're doing it at the wrong times, I guess. I really don't know how to explain it.
I think I've seriously had one person from their starting lineup at some point on my team.
Yeah. Let's see. Going back to Edwin Jackson just real quick, his last 10 games, this is kind of funny. July 1st against Boston, he went 6 innings strong, gave up 1 run. Then he gave up 4 runs. Then he gave up 9 runs. Then he gave up 3. Then he gave up 5, 3, 2, 3, 5, 7. 7 against San Francisco.
Sounds like a guy that just shows up.
Pretty much, yeah. It's just like if one of us were out there, we'd probably do just as good or bad.
I can only throw the ball about 55 miles an hour.
Yeah.
If I try really hard.
Right, yeah. You can't really get it as fast as
I'm pretty sure
Jackson,
I could only do that for 1 inning, though.
Yeah, and
they would be missing, though. There would not be very many home
until
runs
they got used to it, yeah.
Because they're used to I've seen, baseball players switch over to softball. I've seen them strike out because they're not used to the ball going so slow.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things that's going to be interesting. And now for the White Sox, Gordon Beckham. Now that he's gone, are they pretty much cashing in this season? Like, I'm not quite sure what they're doing now.
I mean, if you look at it, they're behind by 10 games.
Yeah, and in the wild card, it's about the same.
Kansas City is pretty much, they're 2 games ahead of Detroit, and then 6 games ahead of Cleveland. Unless Cleveland does something crazy, I see Detroit and Kansas City being the top of that one.
And of course, I hope Kansas City wins that division. I think that'd be really good for Kansas City. They haven't been to the playoffs since they won the World Series in 1985.
Yeah.
That's the longest active drought in baseball of not going to the playoffs. So,
well, look at this. In the American League East, you have Baltimore, who has a huge lead, a 9-game lead. Yeah. And then it's really close between the Yankees, Toronto, and Tampa Bay.
right, and they're all fighting for wild card right now.
So it's very close there. The Seattle, Oakland, and the Angels, they're all pretty close together.
Yeah, I would say definitely.
Except Seattle's way behind first. I would say Seattle's not in it. It's just Oakland and the Angels.
Seattle's got a chance to win wild card.
Yeah.
Here, I'm going to look at the wild card standings right now. The wild card standings currently, you have Detroit, and Seattle's only 0.5 back. Mm-hmm. The Yankees are 4 games back. Toronto's 4 games back. So that's going to be interesting.
And then, like you thought it was going to be, like Washington had a horrible beginning of the year. They had some injury issues. But Washington's number 1, National League East.
Yeah.
And then it's Atlanta. And then it's so evenly spread out between Washington, Atlanta, and Miami.
And the Pirates are still in this as far as wild card. They're 2.5 back, but they got a big series against Milwaukee. And if they can sweep Milwaukee, they'll be in really good shape.
But Milwaukee is number 1 in Central with 71 to 56. Pittsburgh is only 4 games behind St. Louis.
Yeah.
And their bats are on fire. I mean, McCutcheon's coming back from DL.
Yeah, McCutcheon coming back is a really good thing.
Yeah. I think if they could surge to come back in this and get a wild card.
They could. I would not be surprised in the least. In fact, I'd rather have them have the wild card than, say, Atlanta or St. Louis.
The NL West is abysmal. I mean, the Dodgers and San Francisco are so far ahead of everybody else.
Right.
I mean, everybody else looks like the Cubs compared to them.
Yeah.
It's Colorado, Arizona, and San Diego, which never been good.
That
teams.
division going into the season was going to be strong and tough because you had Colorado was supposed to be hanging in there with the Dodgers and San Francisco. They just haven't been doing it.
Yeah, they hit the home runs, but they don't have pitching. I mean, you need it all.
Yeah, you have to have a little bit of everything, obviously, to win, and you see that. But the biggest surprise this year, as far as the division leaders, is definitely Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that Milwaukee, a team that has a platoon at first base between Lyle Overbay and Mark Reynolds. I mean, your first base, they don't even have a set first baseman, and here they are in first place. Matt Garza just went down. They brought up Michael Fiers. He's been on fire.
Fiers is on fire.
Yeah, and I mean, just everyone they bring up seems to be good. I mean they're just right place, right time.
You didn't expect Loesch to do as good as he did.
True.
And then 2 of their other pitchers are pretty much like aces on any other team.
Giovanni Gallardo's had a really good season this year.
Yep, Gallardo.
And God, who else is in their rotation? I can't think of it. I mean, anyway, they just have. Oh, they Marco Estrada and Willie Peralta, and they both. Nobody thought they'd do good. You know, nobody barely knew who they were.
Really, last season he was a fastball pitcher. Like he got strikeouts like crazy.
I think he started. I think they both started off in the bullpen at one point.
Yeah.
But here they are, and they're just doing really well. It's pretty surprising. But I really hope Milwaukee can hang on and win this division. I think that would be good for the city. And, hey, maybe me and Andrew can go to a playoff game then in Milwaukee.
Hey, man, that'd be amazing.
That would be awesome.
I'm down.
Yeah, I'm down for that, too. If that happens, we're doing it, right?
Let's see. Gallardo's pitching next.
Yeah, I think Gallardo pitches tonight.
And they're against Pittsburgh, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big series this weekend for them. Let's see.
And then Peralta, tomorrow is Peralta versus Volquez, but Volquez...
Yeah, Volquez has not had the that you're a
He's
lot of people thought.
3.58, 10-7, and then Peralta's 15-7 though, man.
Ooh.
3.27 ERA.
Yeah. It's going to be a cool series to watch this weekend.
Then it's Fires versus Vance Worley.
On
Vance
Sunday,
Worley's
right?
5-3. Fires is 3-1.
Wow.
Both doing really good. Worley's at a 2.92 and Fires is at a 1.29, which won't stick. At some point, someone's going to hit some home runs off him.
Yeah. So before we go, we wanted to bring up one more thing about Derrick Rose. Now, Derrick Rose had sort of just overall soreness, so he didn't play the last 2 games. But he's going to play tonight, and I think I will look up for sure where they're playing. I'll look up their schedule. But while I'm doing that, I mean, what are your thoughts on Derrick Rose, Andrew? I mean, is this somebody that the Bulls can rely on, or is this somebody that's just like the biggest bust in NBA history?
He's not a bust. He's really good, but when you don't have anyone around him that can take the ball out of his hands, he's just going to get injured again.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I like Rose as a player. He's one of the hardest working players. But with hard work comes deterioration, really. Your body can only do so much.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Let's see, the schedule. I'm trying to pull up the schedule. I don't know. They don't have too much information. But I think they're playing in Spain, something like that.
Yeah.
They play either today or tomorrow, and Derrick Rose will be playing. So I don't know. I mean, they'll probably win this FIBA World Cup. But I thought it was a little rude that Kevin Durant a couple weeks ago he opted out of playing. He was playing and practicing with the team, and then he didn't want to because he wanted to focus on, his regular season team with the Oklahoma City Thunder. But I mean, he was already like in it, and he was already playing, and then he said he couldn't be fully invested into it. I just think he was maybe afraid that something like what happened to Paul George would happen to him.
It's true.
Which I understand, but I don't know. I don't like that. I think if you're playing,
the NHL people were complaining about the Olympics.
Yeah, they were.
They're like, oh, well, our guys are going to get injured now. Well, that's what happens when you play a sport.
Yeah. What are you supposed to do?
You're getting paid to do that. I don't know. But Cubs are up 4-1 now.
Oh, they're up 4-1.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you find out how they scored that the last run?
They had a pinch hitter, and he has a run scored.
Okay.
So I'm thinking.
Yeah, here I can find it in just a second.
Sure.
But yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I'm hoping that the Cubs can. It'd be kind of cool for the Cubs to at least win a series against a team like them.
Alcantara reached on an infield single to second.
Chris
and,
Valaika scored.
Valaika scored. That's awesome.
All right. Yeah.
I don't even know who Valaika is.
He was a prospect that they called up when they made space for people, and so yeah, he's there. But that looks like that'll about do it for Fantasy Fanatics on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuppridge.
I'm Andrew Freeman.
We will be back next week, same time, to talk about fantasy football and fantasy baseball, of course. Stick around at SportsTownChicago.com.
Yep, close your eyes. Pedro Strop is pitching.